Hello everyone, this is Nevernan, and today I will be talking to you about my water team that we finally managed to complete the water type monotype hard mode challenge. So, first just a quick reminder of what the rules for this challenge are. It would be using all 18 types. I need to, while above 1400 elo, win a game against someone that is plus or minus 50 elo of me at that time, and I must have a D rank or lower mod and I must meet one of the following conditions: have a D rank or lower mod on my team, not have a single S rank mod on my team, or make a full stall team on a type that isn't known for it. So for example, water, I could not make a full stall team for because that's just a normal style for water. That's not really anything revolutionary or new or unusual. It's not really a hard mode, is it? It's just playing the game in a different way. But with that in mind, let's take a look at the team that finally managed to get me a win. So here we have a webs team with Araquanid. So if we look at the viability rankings, you'll see that Araquanid is nowhere to be found. And that is because, generally, webs water is not that great of an idea. Purely due to the fact that balance is just a lot more consistent and wins a lot more matchups. So it makes sense that Araquanid wouldn't really have a spot here. But it is definitely the best web setter available. Not just for water, but also for bug. But Bug prefers to use Galvantula due to the fact that Galvantula is faster, is more instantly threatening, and all that. But Araquanid isn't much far behind. But we're getting distracted. Araquanid on this team just filled one niche, and it was to just get sticky webs down. I gave it full defense and heavy duty boots in the event that I couldn't lead with Araquanid because it would be too easily baited or something similar, or if there was a taunt user on the enemy team, I would not put Araquanid in first. So giving it the heavy duty boost just allows it to come in on like rocks, spikes, toxic spikes, anything that would have just made getting those webs down more difficult. And it also allows it to be potentially used later in the event that it does tank one hit, gets its webs down, and then we swap into Swampert to eat the electric type attack. And then we can swap it back in later, and it can maybe do a bit of damage. Because even though it doesn't have that high of an attack stat, Water Bubble does so much carrying for how strong it is that it kind of still can hit pretty hard, even with no investment. So yeah, that's all that Araquanid does on this team. Next one we have here is Walking Wake. So I decided to go for a spec set since it would obviously have the benefit of everyone on the enemy team being slower. Well, most of the enemy team would be slower unless they're a flying type or a levitator, or they also have heavy duty boots. But Walking Wake does happen to be faster than most of the popular boots users, so choice specs just seemed like the right choice here. And Walking Wake hits very, very hard. And Photosynthesis is also very nice because if we end up going against fire, it ends up getting a buff, which fire typically is already an easy matchup for us, but it can be annoying because of the sun just weakening all of our stab. Walking Wake doesn't have to deal with that though, because of Hydro Steam, which as you can see, gets buffed instead of getting halved by the sun. So it could just use that, and it's basically a better version of Scald anyway, so no reason not to use it. Well, I say better version of Scald, but it doesn't burn people. And you would want to use Scald normally, but I opted for this instead due to the fact that Sun is like semi... You might see it like a decent amount of times, I would say. So it just made more sense to me to use Hydro Steam. I would say Scald is definitely probably a more optimal choice, but I preferred Hydro Steam just for the sake of laddering. And at the time, when I was laddering, there was a lot of Sun teams running around, so I just decided that this was better for that time. But yeah, I would use Scald normally. Draco Meteor, Hydro Pump, self-explanatory, just very hard hitting stabs, and Flamethrower for coverage. allows us to hit steel types pretty well. But yeah, that is it for Walking Awake. Next up, we have our Rapid Spinner, Quacklevolt. I was having a tough time deciding whether I wanted to use this or Blastoise for it, but I decided at the end of the day, it's probably best if we use Quacklevolt because it's also something that can hit steel types. It can also end up snowballing if it gets enough kills, with Aqua Step and Close Combat, and with Heavy Duty Boots. It's actually surprisingly durable, especially with this spread. Now, this is a default spread, I didn't really do anything special here, but I do like that it allows me to do my job properly as a Rapid Spinner, and also have a little bit of defensive utility with Roost, and also some defensive investment. It's not meant to sweep, but it can do that if given the right matchup and the right setup. But at the end of the day, this is just here to Rapid Spin. It doesn't really have much to combat common spin blockers like Goldango and Frostlass or any other ghost type. It doesn't really combat them very well, I would say, but it's still pretty decent as a Rapid Spinner for the most part. So, and plus Water is really starving for good Rapid Spinners, and I didn't want to use a defogger because Water has a lot of those, but as a defogger on this type of team isn't really ideal because you just end up getting rid of your own hazards, and now you have to reset your hazards, and it's like, it just seems unideal for this type of team style that wants to constantly be applying pressure and not really want to reset. So yeah, that is Quacklevolt's set. And now for our star, which would be Crawdaunt. So Crawdaunt is rated D rank on the viability rankings, and that is due to the fact that it's just not... Well, first of all, it has a type similarity with Greninja, and having too many of the same type can be problematic, especially since you also have Samurott as competition. But yeah, if you decide to run Crawdaunt and Samurott and Greninja, you'd be ending up being weak to Fairy and just having a lot of the same on your team. Well, maybe not with Greninja, because that thing can run a lot of things, but with Samurott specifically, you have... It's just kinda outclassed due to the fact that it has sharpness on its stabs, which is almost the same as adaptability. It's a 1.5 times boost to its moves, so it's basically like a stab bonus to its already stabbed moves. And on its water, it does have a water and dark type slicing move, so it just ends up basically being like an adaptability boost. It's not the exact same, I know that, but it's very similar. So it's basically a, I wouldn't say a better version of Crawdaunt, because Crawdaunt still does its own thing very well, and this thing also doesn't have a knockoff, most notably. It has Sucker Punch though, which is definitely a good upgrade and a good alternative, but it does not have knockoff. And knockoff in this meta is a lot better than it has been in previous metas, because in previous metas, knockoff would be like somewhat okay, would be okay. It's still a good move, but you would have Mega Stones or even Z-move crystals that would block the knockoff for you. But now, every single Pokemon uses an item that can be knocked off. So, Crawdaunt is incredibly valuable now due to the fact that it has knockoff, which is why I ended up putting it on the team as the stall breaker, because this mon could, instead of just hitting something like, let's say, a Alomomola for neutral damage and getting a spike down, it instead will end up getting Alomomola's item removed, which could be its Heavy Duty Boots, and that could do dividends for the team, because now that Alomomola doesn't have boots, it can take damage from Swampert's rocks, etc, etc. Now you may be wondering why I didn't choose to have a Spikes lead on this team, and that's because I found that it was really difficult to fit the constraints that I needed for this team, because I needed Araquanid in order to fill the unviable Mon slot, and I wanted to maybe drop Araquanid, but I couldn't build a good team with Crawdaunt without it just being slightly worse than just running a Hisuian Samurott. Because Hisuian Samurott just works a lot better on these balance teams than Crawdaunt does, due to the fact that it sets hazards. So On a more hyper offense team, I find Crawdaunt is a little bit better, but still, Hisuian Samurai probably does do its job just as well. But with that being said, I ended up using this one due to the fact that it has knockoff, and it would be better against defensive teams. And knocking off items is incredibly important with all the heavy-duty boots running around, so I just think that this was a good call. And it's also benefited a lot by webs, whereas Hisuian Samurai would also benefit a lot from webs, but I feel like as a choice bander, it just isn't as good. It would also need to use sword stance instead, which it could also be good. But I did not need a sword stance sweeper because I have this already. So I just decided that Crawdaunt as a band user would just be a lot better, and Crawdaunt also has Aqua Jet, which is nice. But yes, speaking of Ogerpon Wellspring, this bond is pretty good on water. It also helps us cover a lot of our weaknesses, so it's neutral to electric, so it's an offensive sweeper that can maybe take like a stray electric attack from someone like Zapdos or something. Its stabs are also very strong. It has 350 speed, and with webs that can be extremely oppressive. So with one sword stance and the power of webs, this thing could be incredibly deadly to anything it goes against. And Hornleech is just healing it for a lot of HP as well, so this mod is just very, very solid. There's not really a lot to say about it. It's just very good at its job. It's just a good sub sweeper that benefits a lot from webs. I don't know, it's just very solid, very good mod, and it just slotted perfectly into the team. And then we have Swampert. And Swampert is just here for Electric Immunity. There wasn't really an Electric Immunity that could fit the tempo of the team very well, so I decided to go with a standard Swampert set. With Flip Turn, importantly, and Roar is there just in case there's like an out of control setup sweeper. Like say, Body Press, Iron Defense Body Press Corviknight would be an example of something that would be troublesome for this team to maybe deal with. So having this here is actually a nice safety check for that. It breaks the pace a little bit, but you have Flip Turn, so you can still keep up the momentum somewhat. But yeah, that is the team. You may realize that I only have one special attacker, and that is due to the fact that, again, I couldn't have a Rapid Spinner, and I thought that Quacklevolt would be a lot better than Blastoise, due to the fact that it has its fighting stab, and it just would be able to help a lot more against Steel if we ended up going against that type a lot. And it can also just end up running away with games with Moxie, so I figured Blastoise would just not be that good here. Because it would have to use Rapid Spin, which means it can't use its special attacking sets, and that's just inherently, you know, not that great. So I decided that this was the better alternative. But yeah, this is the team. And now I will show you some of the replays. So here's the first one. This first one is using a different team, actually, so let me show you that real quick. I should probably explain what happened. So there are quite a few teams here that I attempted to use. This one is one of my attempts at making Crawdaunt balance work, but it just couldn't work. I just couldn't make it work very well because I just needed a strong special attacker, and I wanted to use Greninja because it was fast, but just wasn't enough speed control. So we ended up dropping this team as well. This team was originally what I was going to try and use, but Tentacruel ended up not being able to fulfill the niche I needed from it enough. Because I thought Tentacruel and Swampert would make a decent defensive core, but it turns out they just don't really do that well. And I was surprised that Tentacruel didn't do that well due to having like a really good special defense set. But it just didn't really do what I wanted it to do. And Basque Legion, female Basque Legion just didn't do enough for me. I think it might be better as a Swift Swimmer, or it needs a rain team to support it, but I thought that maybe with adaptability, it would be doing a crazy amount of damage, but it only has a base 100 special attack stat, so that just ended up not doing too much. Caldio was doing fine, but again, Basque Legion was just not doing enough for me. Admittedly, I probably could have replaced this with a Walking Wake, and it would have made my life a lot easier, but I wanted to try and use like 2 unviable mons, just to really see how far I could get it. Or not 2 unviable mons, but 2 D-ranked mons. So, yeah. But yeah, those were all the iterations of the team that I went through, and this is the final one that worked. So let's go to the replays. So we have Ambername's Sock, which is my alt for this one, and we will play this out. So we can see already, this is a standard lead. I decided that I'm definitely going to put Sticky Web here. Most of his team, I don't think Corviknight has Defog anymore. No, it doesn't have Defog anymore, I actually know that. Yeah, Corviknight doesn't have Defog, so I'm just like, okay. It should be free to just put down webs, and we should be good. I don't have to worry about it ever again. Goldingo's going to be annoying to spin against when he puts his rocks down, but I can play around that. Oh, and this is with the other team. This is an attempt with the other team. This one, unfortunately, did not meet the criteria because at the time I was 14-18 and he was way, way below me. But this is still a decent game to try and showcase what I wanted to do with this team. So I end up taking a Thunder Wave. And at this point in time, I'm not really sure what to do because not a lot of my mons can do much. I wanted to try and rapid spin the rocks away with Tentacruel, but then I'd just make this thing stronger. And I wasn't really sure what set it had until this moment, so that's when I decided to go into Tentacruel. And I realized, like, oh, I can just put in Basque Legion later, because this thing is also pretty tanky. Because it's immune to Body Press as well. So I get rid of the webs, use Thunder Wave on me, and this Thunder Wave is going to prove to be really obnoxious for me. But yeah, I go into Swampert. Go into Swampert so that he doesn't take a another Thunder Wave. I end up sacking Swampert. I'm not really scared of Goldingo having an Electric Move here. Now this game is not looking very good, but Basque Legion does hit very hard here. And Basque Legion will hit Corviknight for a good amount of damage. Oh, Corviknight does have Defog. Okay. So, yeah, Corviknight defogged all my rocks away. Very sad, very unfortunate. But thankfully, Basque Legion does outspeed max speed Heatran due to it being 280. We end up losing her here, which is unfortunate. But after this, I send in Keldeo. I end up using Hydro Pump, and Hydro Pump has to do a lot of carrying here. Because right now we're in a really bad spot. This guy also thought I was going to switch out because, you know, who's going to stay in and think that they can hit every single Hydro Pump? I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that, but it was my only play because this is paralyzed, and I don't want to give this guy an opportunity to set up, so I just had to risk it all and go for the Hydro Pumps. I'm pretty sure that was a lucky roll. I think I should have died there. But yeah, this team did end up getting a win, but as I said, it didn't meet the criteria, so that's why I didn't make the video once I did this game. But yeah, Basque Legion does hit, but it's not hard enough, because you saw that Corviknight, which is likely specially defensive, took like 49%. Should be doing a lot more than that, especially when it's choice specs and adaptability. Okay, let's compare it to this replay with the current team I'm using. I thought this was another Monotype user, but it is not that user, unfortunately. But yes, as you can see, this is a stall team, stall water team, very standard, nothing unusual here. But I have probably one of the best anti-stall mons, or stall breakers, that is. which is Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt hits ridiculously hard, and it's going to get rid of a lot of these monsters' items, and it's going to make it a lot harder for them to do their job. Now, I play very uncomfortably here, because I know that he's going to Toxic all my mons. This thing has heavy duty boots, we get rid of those. That's going to be very, very good later. I put in Ogre-Bound Wellspring on the rest, because I knew he was going to do that, or he was going to have to hard switch out and risk another knockoff. At first I do this, but I didn't want Ogre-Bound to get Toxic yet, and I was very afraid to do that. But in retrospect, I probably should have just stayed in, and that's what I end up doing later, because once I get the SD, he can't really do much, and I heal a lot from a Horde Leech, so it's just kind of pointless to see that. But yeah, you can see Knockoff does ridiculous amount of damage to that Gastrodon there. And I kind of just like keep Crawdaunt in to keep doing damage. So yeah, Dondozo doesn't take a lot there. So we end up switching out into Quackleval. He doesn't have a spin blocker, so we're all good to go. So we spin this for free. Alomomola comes in, and it's getting ready to wish for a Dondozo heal. So I send in Crawdaunt as a response. I expect Alomomola to press Protect here, but they end up not doing that. They hard switch into Dondozo instead, which is honestly a fine play. So he gets to heal, and I still get Ogre-Bound, so I still have good offensive footing. And this is when I decide, yeah, screw it, I'm just gonna go click Horn Leash and take the Toxic. I thought this thing would have Protect, but it turns out that it is not running Protect for some reason. So I kill Swampert. Not really that important. Usually that is a big kill, but I don't have electric coverage on this team, so it doesn't really mean that much. Now, he does have Unaware, but he is asleep right now, so he can't really come in and do that. And because he took chip damage from heavy duty without his heavy duty boots, he's not able to switch in there. So he loses Gastrodon now, so he loses the Spiker. Alomomola comes in, presses Protect. But Alomomola is not an Unaware Mon, so it will take a lot of damage from this Horn Leech. It does survive it, which is insane, by the way. But I decide, yeah, I'm not going to stay in and take more chip. And yeah, I was right to do that. Alomomola press Protect again. And I just stay in with Crawdaunt here and click a Knockoff. Kill the Slowking. Very risky move, but he doesn't really have a lot of better options. He could have maybe switched to Toxapex, but debatable if that's a good idea or not. So I use Close Combat, it does 0 damage to that Alomomola, to the shock of nobody. I'm just trying to find a footing, I'm trying to make him pivot out, and yeah, he pivots out into Dondozo, nearly fully heals him. This is where I swap back to Whopping Wake, and Whopping Wake is incredibly strong, and he's a special attacker. And we know this Dondozo has a lot of physical defense, so I use Draco Meteor, boom, Toxapex dead. And there we go, that's the battle. But yes, every Mon on the team held their own there. The rocks from Swampert helped make Dondozo take damage because of the support from Crawdaunt's knockoff, just knocking off items left and right. And yeah, that's just how the team should work. Now, against a more offensive team, this team would probably, well, it wouldn't struggle nearly as much, but it would still have a decently hard time working. But yeah, this game is just a nice proof of concept to show that, yes, this team can work, Web's Water can do stuff. It's just going to be very difficult, and I would not really suggest using this team, to be honest with you. I don't really think it's that great, but it is Monotype hard mode for a reason. We're not supposed to be using easy teams, are we? So that is it for this video. I will now spin the wheel and see which type we are doing next time. And it's rock, so I will see you guys in the next one with a rock team.